So under the American Rescue Plan, there was an expansion of the child tax credit, and it was good. I mean, the result was that we had the lowest child poverty rate than we'd seen, I think, in American history. So it was undoubtedly a good thing. Republicans let that expire, right? And child poverty rates went up again. And I want to know how this is different, or is there a difference at all?
Yeah, there's a significant difference. So just to
Okay.
add on to your explanation, back in 2021, we increased the child tax credit significantly, actually. Families were able to get $3,600 per kid under age 6 and $3,000 per kid for kids age 7 to 18. The benefits were able to go to families regardless of how little they earned, right? So the poorest families got the support they needed. And that's actually the part that allowed child poverty to decrease so significantly, right? Because we help the families who were most in need. The other thing that that law did that was pretty interesting is that it allowed families to collect some of the benefits in terms of a monthly payment for 6 months, which really got people the money when they needed it rather than waiting for tax time, like we discussed,
Right.
to get a small refund. This bill, or the House Republican version of the bill, expands the child tax credit slightly to $2,500 per kid. Um, but it keeps in place the earnings requirement for the policy, which means that you can't actually claim the credit if you earn below certain thresholds, right? And so about half of all Black children, for example, right now can't qualify to get the credit because their parents earn too little to receive it, right? And so it's almost like we're penalizing children because their parents have circumstances beyond the child's control, but oftentimes maybe even beyond the parents' control, right? For Black households in particular, you think about Black workers face significant discrimination in the labor market. They have higher rates of unemployment. They face significant pay gaps. And so ultimately, the way that this policy is set up is to sort of privilege children that I'm not saying that this tax credit is going to people that could not use the help,
Mhm.
but it definitely disadvantages children who are in the worst possible financial circumstances. And we know that children living in poverty, like that has significant implications for kids throughout their lifespan, right? It has implications for what kind of education levels they attain, what kind of jobs they're able to get later in life, right? And so it's sort of like we're creating a problem down the road for ourselves when it's been shown that we could afford to actually take care of the children who are most in need. The other piece, and I think this is like a particularly frustrating part of this policy, and this is something that we see throughout a lot of the working class portions of the legislation, is that it requires that not only the child has a social security number enabled for their parents to claim the credit, but the parents need to have a social security number. So the child could be a citizen, and if their parents are undocumented, they will not receive the credit. And if the parent files jointly, both of the parents have to have social security numbers. So that creates a significant problem for mixed status families in claiming a credit that we know makes a huge difference in the lives of children.